Fenway Park, home of the Boston Red Sox, is baseball's oldest and arguably most iconic ballpark, opening in 1912. However, the team's history dates back to 1901 when they were founded as one of the 8 charter members of Ban Johnson's American League, then known as the Boston Americans. As a new franchise, the team needed a ballpark to call home. A location along Huntington and Rogers Avenues in the Roxbury section of Boston was selected to construct a $35,000 ballpark. A small 9,000-seat facility, constructed primarily of wood, was built here and opened on May 8, 1901 when Boston battled the Philadelphia Athletics. It was named after its location, Huntington Avenue Grounds. Baseball in Boston in the early 1900s was confusing. Boston had both an American League team and a National League team, and the teams' names kept changing while at the same time their uniforms looked alike. The lettering style on this Boston Americans jersey began in 1901, the first year of the American League. Notice the color, blue with no red. Also notice the lace neck. Boston was one of the only teams at the time to have a lace neck. It was mostly unheard of in baseball in the early 1900s. This jersey shows the 1902 jersey. The following year, 1903, Boston played in the first ever World Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates only 300 miles away. The upstart American League team from Boston upset the National League champs. The Red Sox won the pennant again the next year, but due to animosity and some say jealousy between the National League pennant-winning New York Giants and the Red Sox, the World Series was not played in 1904. Cy Young was a big reason for Boston's early success. Cy is the winningest pitcher of all time, and he had some help from his Royal Rooters, local fans of the Americans. Much was made of their influence in the World Series, who indeed traveled not just to Huntington Grounds but all the way to Pittsburgh to sing their theme song Tessie to distract the opposing players. Early pictures of Huntington Avenue Grounds, like this one before the bleachers were added in left field before the 1904 season, show the park's expansive outfield, measuring beyond 600 feet to center, common for early utilitarian fields of this era. Over the first decade, the ballpark was expanded as baseball continued to draw increased interest. In 1904, 14 rows of bleachers were added in left field, increasing the seating capacity by 3,500. 5 years later, in 1909, bleachers were added in center field, and the press box was constructed atop the roof of the single-story grandstand. Even with the bleachers, as you can see in this photo, spectators wanted to get as close to the action as possible. Ropes in the outfield were placed in this early-era ballpark to allow fans this vantage point. The following year, in 1910, the bleachers were extended from third base into left field, increasing the park's final capacity to 14,000. In left field, from the park's inception, the Boston Storage Warehouse, built in 1895, loomed above the playing field. The Boston Americans were renamed the Red Sox in 1908. Their home uniform was white with red as their trim color, socks included. As a result, the Bostonians were quick to adopt Red Stockings or Red Sox as their nickname. This is the first pictorial reference to the team nickname on a Major League jersey. On May 5, 1909, Cy Young pitched the first perfect game in baseball. Cy Young, to which a league's Best Pitcher award is named after, won 511 games throughout his career, a record that in this day and age will never be approached. Boston's history at the ballpark was short as they played their last game at Huntington Avenue Grounds on October 7, 1911 against Washington. The ballpark had expansive dimensions. The center field wall had decreased from 635 feet to 530 feet from home plate when the bleachers were complete, removing a tool shed that was originally in play. The scoreboard was located in right field, and the Boston State Capitol building and newly built Boston Opera House, completed in 1909, could be seen from home plate. The limitations of wooden construction, the risk of fire, and the rise of steel and concrete ballparks during the end of this era prompted Red Sox owner John Taylor to seek a new home. Taylor, a real estate magnate, sold himself a parcel of land in Boston's The Fens as the site for the new ballpark. Construction began on the new park in September of 1911. The original shape, pre-1930s, of Fenway Park is shown in this sketch. The project significantly increased the Red Sox value, leading Taylor to sell the franchise to new ownership. Nestled just outside of downtown Boston lies Fenway Park. For over a century, generations of fans have gathered here to watch the Red Sox play. Despite its age, Boston's Jewel Box has retained much of its original charm and character, making it a living testament to baseball's rich history. Fenway Park was completed in less than a year, and the Red Sox played the New York Islanders on April 20th, 1912, their first game being the same day the Titanic was lost. The park featured a single-tier steel and concrete grandstand that extended from behind home plate down the baselines, connecting to wooden bleachers in the outfield. The original seating capacity was 27,000, with dimensions of 321 feet to left field, 488 feet to center field, and 314 feet to right field. One unique feature was Duffy's Cliff, a 6-foot embankment in front of the left field fence. This away Red Sox uniform featured the classic button-up red lettering Red Sox across the chest. The opening year of Fenway in 1912, the Boston Red Sox dominated the American League with a 105-47 one-loss record, their best ever. Superb pitching like young arm Smokey Joe Wood, who was 34-5 with a 1.93 ERA in 1912, held opponents at bay. He set an American League record that season with 16 consecutive wins. Tris Speaker won the MVP award with a .383 batting average with 53 doubles. Tris Speaker would play until 1915, where he would be sold to Cleveland, a trend that would rear its head again by the end of the decade. However, this decade, the Red Sox built a dynasty, winning World Series titles in 1912, 1915, 1916, and 1918. Added temporary seating in front of the large wall in left field was constructed for the 1912 World Series here in this picture. By 1914, Fenway Park helped the miracle Boston Braves of the National League host their World Series, allowing the extra capacity to sell more tickets than their home South End grounds. This picture illustrates added construction down the third base line for more seating. Duffy's Cliff rose up an incline to this early version of the Green Monster in left field. Originally a 25-foot-high wooden wall before the modification in the 30s, the Monster was part of initial construction that kept outside spectators from a free view into the field from Lansdowne Street. 1915 was George Herman Ruth's first full season with the Red Sox. Known as the Babe, Ruth was a phenomenal pitcher who elevated his game in the World Series, once throwing 29 2/3 consecutive scoreless innings. But his hitting prowess, later for the Yankees, earned him the nickname the Sultan of SWAT. Ruth is bar none the best two-way player to ever play the game. The Sox wore this unlettered home jersey beginning in 1915 for 6 years until the 1921 season, when they later adopted pinstripes similar to their away unis. This clean, white button-up jersey is shown in many photographs of this age, while the road uniform, illustrated here from the 1918 season, although fairly plain, added a touch more flair with Red Sox lettering stitched on the front of their away grays. The Sox added tight pinstripes here to add some variety to their outfits. Every time the Red Sox made it to the series, they won it. Their future looked very bright, especially with a young pitching and hitting phenom Ruth leading the way. In this 1923 uniform, the Sox adopted a wider pinstriping for their road uniforms than the early ones in 1918. The team had an amazing start to their franchise, winning 5 World Championships in their first 18 seasons. Who could have foreseen that the Sox wouldn't win another World Series for the next 80-plus years? Some fans believe this run of bad luck is the curse of the Bambino. As the story goes, Harry Frazee, then owner of the Red Sox, was desperate for money to keep producing his Broadway plays. Babe Ruth was thus sold to the Yankees prior to the 1920 season for $125,000 cash and a $300,000 loan to Frazee. So legend has it that because they sold one of the greatest baseball players ever, the Providence of baseball frowned upon the Red Sox the rest of the century. The 1920s marked a turning point for the Sox as Babe Ruth was sold to the Yankees after the 1919 season, and other players were traded or sold throughout the decade. It would be 28 years before the Sox would play again in the World Series and 86 years before winning it. This picture of Babe Ruth in 1926 at Fenway shows him slugging away a home run, but in a Yankees uniform. These years would be termed by Boston fans as the forgettable 20s, with the fans only dreaming of what could have been. To pile on to the despair, in May of 1926, a fire destroyed the wooden bleachers along the left field line. The rest of the stadium remained fairly unscathed, with a second fire in the early 30s being the big one. In this 1932 home uniform, you can start to see similarities between this jersey and today's Sox jersey. This was the year that the pinstripes were removed. There's no piping around the collar and buttons at this stage, although that gets added soon. Notice the red stockings on the left sleeve that were worn in 1931 and 1932 only. In 1933, Thomas Yawkey purchased the Red Sox and the team's fortunes turned for the better. Yawkey inherited a team that had finished worst in the American League in 1932. But unlike owners of the Red Sox recent past, Yawkey spent to improve the team's play on the field. In 34, he reached 500 for the first time since 1918. And by 38, the Red Sox finished in the top half of the league. Yawkey initiated extensive renovations to Fenway Park. For the 1934 season, Duffy's Cliff was removed, and the wooden stands in right and center field were replaced with concrete structures. The grandstand was enlarged, increasing the seating capacity to 33,817. Fenway's most iconic feature, the Green Monster, a 37-foot high wall in left field, was added during this renovation, replacing the old 25-foot high wall. Initially covered with advertisements, the wall also featured a manually operated scoreboard at its base. Despite a second fire in January 1934, the ballpark was fully restored and reopened on April 17, 1934. As the surrounding neighborhood grew in the 1930s, Yawkey added a 23-foot high net, was added atop the Green Monster in 1936 to prevent balls from damaging nearby businesses. By 1939, the Red Sox called up rookie Ted Williams, the phenomenal outfielder from San Diego, who, when all was said and done, would be arguably regarded as the best pure hitter of all time. Due to Williams' left-handed blasts, in 1940, the right field wall was moved 20 feet closer, reducing the dimensions to 302 feet in right field and 380 feet in right center. Bullpens were added in the newly created space, replacing the original foul territory bullpens. This 1939 photo was taken a year before the bullpen modification. Compare this home jersey to a modern Red Sox jersey 50 years and not much has changed. One small difference is the double red piping that goes around the top of the collar. During this time period, while America is at war, wartime sleeve patches were worn by all teams shown on the left sleeve of this home jersey. Ted Williams, one of the best that ever played in a Red Sox uniform, batted .406 in 1941, only his third year in the majors, and was the last major leaguer to hit over 400 in a season. The next year, he won the Triple Crown with a .356 average, 36 home runs, and 137 RBIs. Williams then joined the U.S. Marine Corps after the 1942 season and returned to play ball in 1946. Stats fans wonder what more he could have accomplished if he hadn't missed those 3 years in the prime of his career. A small upper deck was constructed behind home plate in 1946, slightly increasing seating capacity. Here you can see the added press box down the first baseline as Bill Dickey of the Yankees takes a swing towards right field. This photo from the 1946 All-Star Game at Fenway Park shows the entire field from the upper deck press box. The Red Sox would win the pennant this year in 1946 and be heavily favored against the Cardinals in the World Series. A famous Ted Williams shift that the winning Cardinals implemented held a stubborn Williams in check as he batted .200 in the 7-game series. Notice the advertisements on the Green Monster here. In 1947, the Green Monster was stripped of advertisements and painted dark green, giving it its iconic look. That same year, Fenway hosted its first night game on June 13th, when the Red Sox defeated the Chicago White Sox. The first picture was towards left field, while this one's vantage point towards right. The Red Sox road uniforms have remained pretty much the same from 1948 to the present. That being said, notice that they used a zipper instead of buttons at this time. When you go almost 60 years with almost no change in jersey style, the addition of a zipper instead of buttons becomes a big deal. By the end of the 1948 regular season, Boston had finished atop the American League. The only problem was, so had Cleveland. With identical 96 and 58 records, a one-game playoff was scheduled for the first time in Major League history. The Indians prevailed 8-3 and thus advanced to the World Series. In 1949, Ted Williams and the Red Sox fell short of the pennant again, this time to the Yankees, losing at the end of the season to stay home in October. The Red Sox road uniform shows that buttons have long since replaced the zipper. The patch on the left sleeve commemorates the American League's golden anniversary, 1901 to 1951. This photo during opening day at Fenway Park commemorates this golden anniversary, as vehicles of this 50s era parade around the field. Notice the updates to the clock in right center field behind the bleachers. This photograph shows Ted Williams in 1954. Williams almost hit 400 again in the 50s, coming close at age 38 in 1957 by finishing the season batting .388. However, the Red Sox were in decline, playing out the 1950s as a good but not great team, usually in the middle of the pack, with the only real interest being generated by individual success or being that of a rare spoiler. Here, the season opener in 1956 shows a clean panoramic look at Fenway Park, whose shape, from right field all the way around to the monster, resembles similar contours as today. This photograph, taken after the 1957 season, shows the grounds crew maintaining the field for the following season. The signage beyond the stadium is indicative of the era, as the iconic Citgo gasoline sign is yet to emerge above the green monster. By 1961, the Jimmy Fund advertisement could be found surrounding the clock tower in right center field, as the Institute partnered with the Boston Red Sox. The Jimmy Fund is a global community raising funds to support the Dana-Farber Cancer Institute's mission to prevent, treat, and defy cancer. One can date these photographs by this fact. In this 1960 April photograph a year earlier, before Jehovah's Witness convention at Fenway, no Jimmy Fund advertisements exist surrounding the clock tower. 1961 was a transition year for the Boston Red Sox. While Roger Maris was setting a home run record this season with his long ball, the Red Sox were handing over the reins in the outfield. Ted Williams had just retired, fitting that he would homer on the last at-bat of his career, September 28, 1960. A new outfield hero needed to emerge to replace the illustrious 21-year career veteran Williams. Beginning as a rookie in 1961, this outfielder would more than carry the reins of excellence into the new era, excelling even longer than Williams. This outfielder, Carl Yastrzemski, would single-handedly bring a pennant home to Boston in a few years. As you can see from this 1961 photo into right field, the Prudential Center had not yet been built and had not risen from the back bay yet. By 1965, and with the advent of the American Football League, Fenway had installed an electronic scoreboard to replace where the clock used to hang in right center field. Now you can see in this photograph the Prudential Center towering above the right field corner, rising majestically from the Charles River. 1967 was one of the closest races ever for the American League pennant. The Miracle Red Sox triumphed over the Detroit Tigers and Minnesota Twins by one game to end the season, culminating in their first pennant in 21 years. The team was led by the talent of MVP and Triple Crown winner Carl Yastrzemski, the last Triple Crown winner until Miguel Cabrera in 2012. And Cy Young Award recipient Jim Longberg. They went on to the World Series to face the dreaded St. Louis Cardinals. Unfortunately, the Cards' Bob Gibson saved his best performance for last, winning games 1, 4, and 7, and only giving up 3 runs in all 3 games combined, and even hitting a home run himself in Game 7. The Red Sox curse had struck again. Of note in this 1967 World Series photograph is the Citgo sign that has emerged on the left field skyline. For several decades, Fenway Park saw minimal changes, only background details of advertisements like liquor ads, gasoline station chains, and surrounding neighborhood landmarks. This image of the Red Sox home is from 1970. This one is from 1971. Notice the advertisement change from Grandad's Bourbon to Windsor Canadian. Also notice along the third base to left field stands that the second and likewise third decks have not yet been built. Finally, this close-up view of the Green Monster was taken during the season in 1972. This home jersey is of a double knit style that most of the other teams succumbed to as well during the 70s and early 80s. It was a pullover style made of synthetic material. The pants were called Sansa belts because the elastic material of the waistline eliminated the need for a belt. The patch promotes Massachusetts bicentennial. By 1975, the Red Sox had put together a championship team with stars like Jim Rice, Yastrzemski, Carlton Fisk, Oil Can Boyd, and shown here, Fred Lynn. The 1975 Red Sox won the pennant by beating the three-time defending Oakland A's in 3 straight games in the relatively new AL Championship Series. They went on to face Cincinnati's Big Red Machine in what has been remembered as the best World Series ever played. With the Sox facing a long winter ahead of them with one more loss, they went into Game 6 down 3-2. Boston's Fenway Park, October 21, 1975, has gone down in baseball history simply as Game 6. Bottom of the 12th, Carlton Fisk is the first man up for Boston. He hammers the first offering down the left field line towards the Green Monster. Time slows for an instant. Is it fair or foul? Fisk raises his arms and wills the ball fair. The fans hold their breath as the ball rings off the foul pole. Fisk jumps into the air and all at Fenway follow suit. Sox win 7-6 and the series is tied. As memorable as Game 6 would become, the Sox would lose to the Reds in Game 7 and so prolonging the curse. At the start of the 1976 season, a $1.5 million electronic scoreboard was installed in center field. The Green Monster's tin surface over concrete, which had replaced the wood wall back in 1934, was replaced with a hard plastic following this 1975 season. The material change on the Monster's covering remains to this day. As the 1970s Red Sox strove to cast off their demons, 1978 saw their big lead during the season get erased by the surging Yankees in September. After getting swept at home in 4 games, some call the Boston Massacre, the teams ended up being tied at the end of the season. The Red Sox played the Yankees in a 1-game playoff at Fenway Park, and the most unlikeliest of villains emerged to crush the Sox hearts, Bucky Dent. With the Red Sox leading in the 7th inning, Dent homered to put the Yanks in the lead and send the Sox packing. As we moved into the 1980s, the Red Sox became a consistent contender for the Eastern Division crown. 1982 saw the beginning of a prolific hitter and Hall of Fame third baseman in Wade Boggs, a staple 300-plus hitter anchoring the lineup. Wade would win 5 batting titles in the 1980s, including a high .368 batting average in 1985. 1982 also saw a series of upgrades to Fenway Park. This first photo is a panoramic view of Fenway Park from right field before the construction additions. Compare this photo to the next photo and note the added amenities. A newly constructed press box expanded the existing one, this one enclosed in glass and air-conditioned. Also, that same year, additional seating was constructed along the right field roof, creating a small upper deck. Luxury boxes were thus added along the baselines, bringing this classic-style jewel box park into the modern era. By 1986, the Red Sox were primed to take another run at an elusive title. Their home and road uniforms had lost the elasticized waistband and gone back to a more traditional belt. Both of these are classic Red Sox uniforms and still look the same to this day, and much the same as they did in the 1940s. Roger Clemens took both the MVP and the Cy Young Awards in 1986, shown here setting a Major League record with 20 strikeouts in a game. Outfield greats Jim Rice and Dwight Evans joined a powerful lineup to boost Boston over the California Angels for the pennant in 7 games. Clemens shut the Angels down to take the final game and move on to another fabled World Series, this time against the National League champion New York Mets. A cocky group of guys filled the Mets lineup, but they were humbled after losing the first 2 games in front of their own fans. The Sox then lost the next 2 in Boston, tying the series at 2 apiece. Boston would win Game 5, and the series moved back to New York. Another Game 6, this time in Queens. The game was tied going into extra innings, and the Sox had taken the lead in the top of the 10th. The Mets were down to their final strike twice, but clawed back to tie the game with runners in scoring position. Mookie Wilson of the Mets taps a routine grounder to first, where Bill Buckner waits to make the final out of the inning. The ball rolls right under his glove and into shallow right field. The Mets win and would take Game 7. The curse lived on. As the 1980s came to a close, the demons that haunted the Red Sox seemed to fight against their efforts to win that elusive title. and no other team than a team from New York would be the biggest obstacle in their path. It would have to wait to the next millennium, however, as the Red Sox would field competitive but not championship teams the rest of the 80s and 90s. In 1988, a new dual-color video board replaced the 1976 version with better technology, and the press box was converted into luxury seating known as the 600 Club. These 1988 photos, taken by former pitcher Jerry Royce before a game, show what Fenway Park looked like during this modern era, new scoreboard and all, albeit with no fans in the stands. Jimmy Fund still had this presence and signage above right field, and classic 1980 staples like Miller and Marlboro cigarette advertisements hung on the backdrop walls behind the bleacher seating. Here, Royce photographs a couple of novel angles from home plate to display what a hitter might see from this vantage point, either to right field or to left field. The Red Sox would win the Eastern Division in 1988 and again in 1990. However, both times they would get swept in 4 games by the powerful Western Division champs, the Oakland Athletics. The previous and current photo show Fenway Park during the 1990 season, when stars like Boggs and Clemens were productive but moving on in years. These Sox originals would move on to other teams in a few years and eventually win championships in New York. By the 1990s, many MLB teams were constructing new ballparks, and Fenway Park faced mounting concerns about its structural integrity and outdated facilities. Discussions arose about either renovating Fenway or building a new Fenway nearby. Renderings like this one in the mid-90s began to pop up of a new Fenway Park that would resemble the old one, however, would result in the destruction of a sacred relic. Baseball was changing. Divisional realignment, wildcards in the playoffs. This photograph from 1994 of a panoramic home plate view was taken during the year baseball stopped play in August due to a player strike. That year, no new playoff format was held, no World Series was played. When baseball resumed in May of 1995, the Red Sox won the new Eastern Division with powerful hitting from Mo Vaughn. This series, too, would end in futility as the Sox got swept in 3 games by Cleveland. This photograph was taken during the 1996 season by Jerry Royce. Notice the small Olympic advertisement under the Jan Hancock signage showing the Olympic rings. That year, the Summer Olympics were held in America, specifically Atlanta, Georgia. By 1997, Fenway installed classic Coke bottles on the left field light tower, changing the look slightly as the ballpark approached the new millennium. New Sox blood stormed into the American League scene. Shortstop Nomar Garciaparra won Rookie of the Year in '97, and by '98 the Sox returned to the playoffs as an American League wildcard. By 1999, after hosting the All-Star Game in Boston, Fenway witnessed another superstar, pitcher Pedro Martinez, who won his 2nd Cy Young Award, first with the Sox this year, and he would win a 3rd Cy Young in 2000. The '99 home jersey is still strikingly similar to the ones worn since the '40s. You can't improve a classic. The patch commemorates the 1999 All-Star Game, played at Fenway Park for the first time since 1961. Ted Williams makes an appearance and receives the warmest of receptions, including a touching welcome from all of the current All-Stars who gathered around Teddy Baseball to shake hands with a living legend. The Sox made the playoffs as a wild card entry, upsetting the favored Indians in 1999 before succumbing to the Yankees 4-1 in the American League Championship Series. There's always next year. In 2002, new ownership John Henry, Tom Werner, and Larry Lucchino took a big step towards the future of Fenway Park by committing to preserving and improving the classic jewel box. This wide-angle photograph, highlighting the milk bottle above the Jimmy Fund signage, was taken in 2001 before the new ownership. Since then, numerous renovations and expansions have been completed. In 2003, approximately 250 green monster seats were added atop the left field wall, offering panoramic views of the ballpark. In 2004, additional seats were added to the right field roof, and the enclosed 600 Club was renovated into an open-air seating area with 406 seats. In 2003, the Red Sox fielded a stacked lineup that was a nightmare for opposing pitchers, with the likes of new acquisitions Kevin Millar, Bill Mueller, Manny Ramirez, and shown here, David Ortiz. They led the majors in several key offensive categories, including team RBIs and batting average. On the mound, Pedro Martinez, Derek Lowe, and knuckleballer Tim Wakefield anchored a very solid pitching rotation. The Red Sox introduced an all-red 3rd jersey to their wardrobe. A striking first for the Red Sox. A third jersey is a concept that became commonplace in Major League Baseball by the mid-90s. Most third jerseys are worn occasionally at home, as well as on the road, giving a team a third option as what uniform to wear. And of course, the addition of a third jersey adds to the options fans can buy, thereby increasing apparel revenues and ultimately benefiting the team. More recently, teams have begun adding fourth and even fifth jerseys to their roster of uniform possibilities. This third jersey, worn for occasional home games, is red, with navy blue lettering and black trim. Heartbreakingly, the 2003 postseason ended in Game 7 at Yankee Stadium, with Pedro Martinez taking a 5-2 lead into the 8th inning, but he couldn't hold it and surrendered the tying runs. Sox skipper Grady Little was later vilified by the Red Sox nation for not pulling Martinez out of the game sooner. A walk-off home run by Aaron Boone gave the Yankees a 6-5 extra inning win. 2004, at long last next year had arrived, the curse of the Bambino was lifted. After 86 years, long-suffering Red Sox fans could now die in peace, as their beloved Red Sox were 2004 champions. The Yankees had won the first 3 games of an ALCS series, and no team in baseball history had battled back from a 3-0 deficit. But the Sox were up for the task, and after trailing most of Game 4, the Sox tied the game and then won it on a homer by David Ortiz. Their role continued as they won Game 5 at Fenway in extra innings. And if that wasn't inspiration enough, Curt Schilling, who many thought was too injured to participate in the series, took the mound with his tendon stitched to his ankle, as blood was visible through his sock on a rainy night in the Bronx in Game 6. He was masterful, throwing 6 scoreless innings, allowing just 1 run. The Sox put the hammer down on a stunned Yankees team and then won Game 7. When the Red Sox capped off an anticlimactic sweep in the World Series in St. Louis, they were wearing their road uniforms like this one shown here. This road uniform is gray and features the city name written across the chest. Notice also that on the uniform the Red Sox used red lettering in the Red Sox type font to spell Boston. Please also note that the uniform features red accent trims on the sleeves and down the side of the leg. Also of note, the 2004 movie Fever Pitch, starring Jimmy Fallon and Drew Barrymore, had to alter its ending due to the remarkable Red Sox comeback, winning their first title since 1918. The State Street Pavilion, featuring club-level seating along the baselines, was introduced in 2006. This photograph from 2007 was the last year the Coke bottles would hang from the light tower, as a new Coca-Cola Club and additional deck seating would be added as renovations continued. 2007 saw the Red Sox win the Eastern Division and march through the playoffs to capture their second title of the millennium. Josh Beckett and Curt Schilling provided the pitching pop, while Dustin Pedroia, Kevin Youkilis, and Big Papi David Ortiz brought the big bats. This photograph I took in 2009 from the first base dugout area shows the previously mentioned Coca-Cola Club above left field, full with now 3 decks and a large painted golf sign on the foul territory section of the Green Monster. This photograph I took in 2010 shows a full panoramic view of the park with the Coca-Cola Club introduced in left field. It was not mentioned earlier, but the large John Hancock cursive script resting atop the scoreboard was installed back in 2001. Between 2009 and 2011, lower bowl seats were replaced and refurbished, and the right field roof Budweiser seating area was expanded to accommodate 575 fans. A 38 by 100 foot HD video scoreboard was installed above the center field bleachers. Here's a game that I attended in the midst of a rainout in 2012. During the 2010s, new HD boards would pop up around the stands to further modernize Fenway Park. The current seating capacity is 37,221 for day games and 37,673 for night games, as a tarp is used during day games to provide a backdrop for hitters. The Red Sox have stated that Fenway's capacity will not exceed 40,000. These last 2 photographs are from 2013, a season in which the city of Boston unified together after the Boston Marathon bombings. The Red Sox went on that season to win their 3rd World Series of the millennium, first under new manager John Farrell. The 2013 championship was particularly special as the deciding game was clinched at Fenway for the first time since 1918. The Red Sox have enjoyed immense success this century, winning 4 World Series championships total, clinching their final one, albeit under controversy for their involvement in the video signal scandal, in 2018. This sketch displays an alternate blue-colored jersey sometimes worn at home that year. Here in 2019, the Budweiser right field seating is now under Boston's own brewing giant, Sam Adams. The latest addition to Fenway Park, completed before the 2022 season, is the Bleacher Overlook, located behind the right field bleachers. It includes stool seating with a drink rail and the 521 Overlook, a private deck offering panoramic views of the park. Despite its age, Fenway Park remains one of America's most beloved ballparks. Inside, Fenway's charm is unmatched, from the intimate seating to the iconic green monster and manual scoreboard. Notable features include the lone red seat in right field, marking the spot at Ted Williams' record-breaking 502-foot home run, and championship banners displaying each year on the outer brick facade. The pregame atmosphere around the park is electric, with streets closed to traffic so fans can enjoy live music, local food, and camaraderie. As things change, things stay the same. Compare this 21st century facade to the original 1912 atmosphere the day the park opened. Not much has changed. In the early days of Fenway Park, football was held on its field, as the Red Sox shared it with the old NFL, later the AFL, and currently the NCAA during bowl season. Again, as the park changes, it has mostly stayed the same. John Hancock's sponsorship lease has been handed over to MassMutual, which as of 2024 sits atop the center field scoreboard. Going forward, the neighboring surrounding Fenway looks to renovate, potentially adding new structures that will alter the skyline. Nevertheless, Fenway Park is more than a ballpark. It's a shrine to baseball history and a cornerstone of Boston's cultural identity.
Tessie is the royal Rooters rally cry. Tessie is the tune they always sung. Tessie echoed April through October nights after serenade installed the Nathan Young. Tessie is a maiden with a sparkling eyes. Tessie is a maiden with a love. She doesn't know the meaning of her side. She's got a comment full of love. Sometimes when the game is on the line, Tessie always carried them away. Up the road from third base to Huntington, the boys would always sing and sway.
spring, and spring became the summer. Who'd have believed you'd come along? Hand touching hands, reaching out, touching me, touching you. Sweet Caroline, good times never seem so good. I've been inclined to believe there never was, but now I look at the night and it don't seem so lonely. We fill it up with only two. And when I hurt, hurting runs off my shoulders. How can I hurt when holding you? Warm, touching warm,